Hello and welcome back to the J&Z podcast. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most long-awaited, most fear-inducing, nerve-wracking, just general anxiety-causing live-action remakes I've ever seen. And I'm here today to tell you that they have somehow successfully made a halfway decent live-action remake of something, despite
They pulled it off.
They did it,
It's
despite it
awesome.
being one of the single most difficult ones, in my opinion, to actually get right. They'll take the most standard, like not CGI based anything show that's beloved by many, and they'll somehow screw it up tremendously. And but somehow they got One Piece, the goofiest thing I've ever seen, and they somehow got it right. So hats off to Netflix in this one, but we'll be looking about what makes it so good, what are some qualms we have, and just kind of our general thoughts. We're joined today by Christian again. I got his name right this time. He was, in fact, not Cristiano Ronaldo, so sorry if there was a little bit of false advertising. We were misled too.
Of course.
But we've all seen the original show to various extents, so they'll have some different perspectives there. But to get into it, where are you guys all at in the original show, just before we get kind of into it?
Okay. Where I'm currently in Thriller Bark. I've been watching the show now for probably close to 2 years or maybe a year and a half. I take sporadic breaks from the show throughout, but I get into it really hardcore, and then I will dip out for a few weeks or a month. Christian, how about you, man?
Yeah, I just got past Alabasta not too long ago, and I'm kind of in the same, I guess, bridge as Zeph, and I do take breaks every now and then, but I'm still pretty new. But I like it so far, so
Yeah. So the question does come up then. What's with the Trafalgar outfit if you're only just past Alabasta? You have a...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, my brother, he was the one that introduced me to One Piece, and he's almost caught up with the show, so I've watched the movies with him and my other brother, and so they just kind of introduced me. I really liked the Wano outfit that Trafalgar had, so I just got it as a cosplay, and I'm not quite there yet. I don't know how much longer it'll be, but
It's still a good bit, but will say you did pick a pretty good character from what relatively little you've seen of him. I'm glad you picked up that he's pretty cool, because he kind of is. So
yeah, I know.
That's
Jace,
pretty
I know you are weird because you've watched the entire series, but at the same time you haven't. Do you want to elaborate more?
Watch One Piece. That's all I have to say. That bad boy cuts out what is quite literally 50% filler from the show. No more just long stares. No more deadpan looks at every single thing that anyone ever does. You don't need to get the whole crew member's reaction. They've been doing a good job. And I watched all the way up to Marineford, a little bit past that. I watched that 100% without One Piece, but once I hit that, I kind of got sick of it, and I wish I had started sooner. So that's a good option if you don't need to watch it in English. So yeah, I'm caught up though. No regrets.
Yeah. So I think the main big question here is, we all love One Piece. We love it to death. But for someone that has not watched the anime, will they enjoy this live action show?
My parents watched the live action, and they're still watching it. They're not quite done with it, but so far, especially because my basically my entire family loves One Piece. So to see my mom and dad watch it and to make jokes about it's actually kind of cool. But they picked it up pretty fairly, I would say. But they love it. So I mean, I think that a person that never watched One Piece before would enjoy the show, it still might be a little bit to pick up because there's so much stuff and such compact like episodes, but I think it's a pretty good watch actually.
I kind of agree. I'm split though, because I don't know. Sorry, I don't know how much I can actually put towards me enjoying it being me watching it before and kind of knowing what's gonna happen next. But there's a couple things going for it and a couple against it. For one, that goes against it, it is a goofy show. You know, Buggy, even what me knowing what he is kind of a hard sell. Just clowns in general, I just don't think are all that like appealing in like live settings. So just watching it, you kind of get the feeling it's like, what am I watching here? You know, you don't want that reaction. But at the same time, they did a good job with what they cut, and if you hadn't seen it before, you also don't know what you missed. And they do a great job of not making it seem like filler, which is like what the main show has a massive problem with. It's almost a little too fast actually, but it's still way better than it being way too slow.
Yeah, I definitely agree with some of those points that you're making. For one, my dad did not watch or read the comic book or the anime. So this was his first introduction to it besides watching like a few sporadic episodes of whenever I was turning it on. But he enjoyed it immensely. He wants season 2 immediately because he was just saying it's great to see like a fun show. Just he knew immediately like the things that were goofy, they were paying close attention to the show. So like Zoro with his sword in his mouth, he's like, that's goofy, but I know that's paying respect to the show. Same thing with Luffy anytime he's using his powers, or Sanji with his kicks. Like he knew immediately what was in the show, and it was paying respect to all of that stuff. So even someone that wasn't necessarily a One Piece fan can get into this, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm just so glad. I'm just so happy they actually made something decent. It's not perfect. I mean, I didn't expect that, but I expected it to just be an abomination. And there was so many ways that they could have messed it up. But you know what? I will give them credit. All the changes that they made, some of them were not for the better, to an extent. But I don't think they made any like abhorrent changes. And I in fact think they improved some of the ones in some ways. So there's just various arcs that I feel they actually had a better setup for that made it a lot more interesting. And I just feel like they did the important parts of it, they were able to keep within the show, and that's what really holds it together.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Because when the cast was first announced, I'm like, okay, this show will be great as long as they pay respect to the source material, as long as they know what made the original One Piece show so great, which was its characters and its story. That was what made One Piece so great, as well as its goofy tone. And that's what this excels here, is its goofy tone is up front and foremost. They take some things a little more seriously, like when Zoro gets slashed and he's out in his coma for a little bit. That's taken a little more seriously, like Luffy's like a little more worried for him, other than like in the anime, if I'm remembering correctly. It's like, oh, Zoro will be fine, and Zoro's just kind of like out cold for like a few episodes, and then he comes back. But I like that also Kobe's story is changed here, because Kobe in the original anime, if I'm remembering correctly, he's in the beginning, and once Luffy sails off with Zoro and Nami, he's never seen again until like 300 episodes later. And that's when you find out he became like really buff and strong, and he's friends now with that one kid. They're both
Helmeppo?
like, yeah, they're both like good friends. They're both really good swordsmen, and they're both strong. And then it shows his story throughout what happened while Luffy was at sea. But I like here, it's just played at around the same time as what Luffy's doing. It's not like all of a sudden we get this dump of information.
It's so weird that how they changed it. Like, it's almost like they added certain things. the whole thing with Garp and Helmeppo and Kobe and all that, I like that they fleshed it out because, you know, he would be there for a little bit in the show. Like, that was all part of it. But the stuff going on in the background, I like that they added, I believe, extra scenes to just kind of show their interactions with each other beyond just a surface level kind of thing. They don't just kind of leave you hanging like they do in the show to go on to other stuff. But I think we should start with the beginning, the very first arc where he goes and meets what's her name?
Nami?
Not Nami. When he pops out of the barrel and then he meets Kobe on that ship. Who's the pirates? I forget. Alvida? That's it.
Yeah. Christian, what did you think of that, buddy?
You know, I really, really loved seeing it. Because, again, I'm still pretty new to this show. I'm not as far in as I think you two are. But seeing that, like, first arc really, I don't know, it was just kind of cool just to see, you know, everything that went on. And I thought from that first episode, I kind of knew that this was going to be a good live action, live action version of the show. And man, I gotta say that they did pretty good when it came to like some of the CGI in the first couple episodes. For me, at least, I'm not too critical when it comes to that stuff, but I really enjoyed seeing that first fight with Elvita, and even though it didn't last very long, but it was still pretty. It's still really nice.
It was such a important first episode because that was literally make or break. You're kind of bracing the whole time, trying to figure out. You know, it's still unusual. It's your first time seeing it, so it's like, is this actually going to work? I had those concerns throughout the whole thing. I'm like waiting for the fight. It's like, man, we'll see how this goes. And I'm not gonna say it wasn't. Some things didn't fall into like an uncanny valley. Some things didn't fall like a little weirdish, a little off keel. But overall, it was solid, and it only kind of got better as it went on.
Yeah, I definitely agree because I'm someone that always gives live action versions a chance. There's not some version where I'm like, this is going to be complete trash. I usually give some things a chance. Like I'll watch like the first 10 minutes of a movie or maybe like the first episode. And this first episode was so important because Cowboy Bebop, I was turned off immediately of that after the first 10 minutes because that just spat in the face of everything. In the first 10 minutes of this was doing everything properly. Like the prologue in the beginning where it's talking about Captain... I always forget his name. The King of the Pirates.
Gold Roger?
Gold Roger, yes. I forgot
Roger.
the name of the intro, man. So, they have like the twirly mustache and like all of a sudden you see like some of the individuals in costume and you see all the ships. They look great with CGI. Some of them, are practical sets, but a lot of the stuff is CGI, so it looks fantastic. And then you have Luffy talking to the seagull, and quite literally, it's not like a realistic seagull. It's just ripped straight from the anime. It's got a hat. It's got, the mail bag on it. I fell in love immediately.
That's also something that I like to point out is just like everything looked really nice. Everything was pretty accurate from what I can tell.
The ships were real. Like,
yeah.
Literally, Going Merry was real. Alvida's ship was real. The Baratier was real. Like, I'm sure Garp's ship was real.
Yeah,
It's
everything
great.
just like it felt like it was ripped from the anime, just put in the live action. Obviously, like in real life,
It actually,
everything
I think, added to the pirate ambiance more than even the show does sometimes. Sometimes the show, I feel, is a little bit less piratey than I would like.
Yeah, and that whole vibe of like pirates and like all like the barrels and stuff like that. It does feel like it just looks really nice, and it was like beautiful eye candy to me, seeing all like the cool stuff that they have on the ships, and it being more like obviously it's more realistic, but I loved the way all the sets were made and how much effort that they probably put in to make everything look really nice.
I agree, and I think a big part of it comes down to Luffy himself. I was really worried, especially from the trailers, because my thought was he doesn't sound stupid enough because he's an idiot. Like, he's an actual buffoon, and it's really funny. But I kind of, after watching it, I kind of realized that that's just part of his character. And the thing that really sold me on his performance of Luffy was he had energy the entire time.
Yeah.
He was always just smiling. He was always ready to go. He was always like that. And that's such a big part of his character as well, that it really I didn't mind. I actually think that, it's not a 1-to-1 of the show's Luffy, but I don't even think one's necessarily better than the other, especially in this context. I really did enjoy his performance of him as I would continue to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you because Luffy was the make it or break it character. All the other characters in this show, at least so far of what we've been introduced to in the live action one, are the most simple to do in live action. Luffy is the one that makes it or break it because we've seen it before with live action adaptations of anime where the characters, they flail their bodies everywhere. They try their best to do the performance that's in the original anime, like Edward. I don't know if you've ever seen Edward from Cowboy Bebop in the live action show. She's trying her best to be exuberant and, the wacky character with the noodle arms, and you cannot do that in live action. So I liked that in this with Luffy, he's taken a little more serious with some things, but his core of his character is still there. He's still an idiot. He's still like the dumbest buffoon you'll ever meet on the high seas. But with certain things, like planning fights, that's where he's a buffoon in. And making friends. Like, he'll just be like, you're going to join my crew. That's Luffy. And then he's taken a little more serious with other things, like when Zoro gets hurt, he takes that very seriously. Like, he's like, I don't want my friend to die. In the show, Luffy's such a goofball the entire time. The only reason the Straw Hats really follow him sometimes is because he's just like the all-powerful being.
Right, and he's a little bit more serious, I feel, in the show more than he is in the anime, and it's like they still were able to keep it. Like, he made me laugh sometimes. Like, I think Zoro was dying or something, and Nami was like, "Hey, we need to go back to the Baratier," and he's like, "Sorry, Nami, I'm not hungry." it just cracked me up because it's still showing it. He's not quite 100% there, without making him seem like just annoyingly dumb. It works a lot better in a show like the anime than it does in live action. So they were able to find that balance where he would still do some stupid, funny stuff sometimes, but overall, he's such a. I really enjoyed his adaptation on the character. I thought it was great.
Man, I just love the casting in general. I think my favorite like member to be cast was Jeff Ward, who played Buggy. Hey, I know we talked about the clowns earlier, but I just wanted to say that he did really good, and I really enjoyed Buggy the Clown in that entire arc too.
He did.
He definitely brought a lot of energy.
Could've. I can't blame him.
I loved it. I don't know. I know you had a little differing when it comes to like the clown and stuff, but I loved it. I really did.
I think it was done as well as it could have been done. And what I mean by that is it didn't go so far out of control where someone, if they haven't watched One Piece, they would look at that and be like, this is stupid. But if someone, like for us, it didn't take the cringe factor, because that character could have easily been very cringy in live action, kind of like Luffy. But they do a lot of the great stuff. Like, I did not expect them to do the thing where they flip his arms and torsos and stuff like that in the treasure chest, and then it shows him with just hands and feet and a head. I did not expect that in the show, for them to do that in live action, but they did it, and it worked. Like, it got a laugh out of me. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and speaking of characters too, another one that they changed quite a bit, but I still feel did justice, was Usopp. Usopp It was just like, he's he wasn't that great of a character, I think, early on. Like, he did his job. He was meant to be what he was, and he did that fine. But toning down his, like, absurdness definitely helped in his favor. Like, he still has his moments of, like, showing his cowardice, but he's not, like, openly as just almost annoying with it as he can be in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But things
he's
like,
not yelling all the time and being, stupid.
He's not, but then you still get moments like, again, on the Baratier, when, like, they were fighting Arlong, and I think one of them throws either Sanji or Luffy into a table, and it flips over, and he turns out he's hiding under it, and he crawls away. That was so funny. Like, they still kept little things like that without making a big show out of it. Like, it wasn't... They didn't have time for it, and it overall, I feel, helped keep it focused without sacrificing too much. And I feel they just did a great job with the characters, balancing between the goofiness of it and the seriousness. Nothing was taken... It suited the live action with how overall balanced it needed to be in order for it to not to be too goofy or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a good, strong introduction. What did we all think of? The next arc would be Crud. Was it Syrup Village, or was there something in between that? I forget.
I think Christian said it with the Buggy the Clown arc.
Oh,
yeah,
it was that.
I kind of went into that a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
that's
That
fine.
was in between. And then real quick, his backstory. What did you guys think with, like, Shanks and all that?
Ooh, yeah, that is true. I really did like having a little backstory for Luffy, especially in like a little earlier. Like, it just flashes every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives him a little more character.
It gives Shanks a lot more character too. Like, you see nothing of him, I swear,
I know.
in the show. So I'm glad to see him have a little bit more screen time there, and be a little bit more caring towards Luffy, almost.
Yeah, I think the kid actors, they're doing their best they can. There's not any of them I can really complain about, except for Usopp's younger version. That was probably, not some great kid acting. But I think that
a minute tops. Like, it wasn't even...
Yeah, and that it's not that big of a deal. It's just, whatever. But I think, like, the arcs for their backgrounds were handled really well, especially Sanji's. Like, man, that is one of my favorite arcs in the original anime, and that was brought to life so well in live action.
Yeah, the whole twist in it, with the whole Baratier section was... Okay, do we want to get into this now or later? It doesn't matter to me. But
well, let's actually just go at where we're going, like, through episodes. So let's actually do the Syrup Village.
I liked this Syrup Village probably even a little bit more than how the show did it. The show was a little long, the whole, like, thing, but it didn't have Django or anything in the show. It didn't have the whole, like, dog. Oh wait, no, that was with Buggy. They cut out stuff, but the kind of like the creepy mansion vibe, it really was a great choice, I feel, for having such a time constraint versus having the whole drawn out multi-front beach assault. It just wasn't all that necessary, I feel.
I do kind of, I think I agree. I did overall I did enjoy, like, the vibe that they had, and I know that they couldn't do a lot because it's like 20 some odd episodes just mixed into one. So I do appreciate and enjoy how they compact it all, and I did love the fight scenes. I'm not gonna lie. I
think the actress that did Kaya was one of the most faithful and well presented adaptations out of the whole thing. She was perfect for that role.
I didn't like the Syrup Village arc as much as you guys, and that's only from the standpoint that I don't like the Syrup Village arc in the original anime that much. Granted, you need it because that's Usopp's character, and you learn how who he is and stuff like that. But I don't know. I thought it was a little slow for my taste. Granted, I'm in agreement with you, Jace, about, like, Kaya and stuff like that. Like, that was handled really well. I think that the new, like, budding romance that they had for her and Usopp was different, if I'm remembering correctly. But
Yep, it was. They didn't
in
do
the
anything like
original, that I think she was like a kid that he always like hung around with, so it was kind of weird in the original
that.
anime
They're
in
the
the
same
first
age.
place. Oh,
Right.
are
Yeah,
they?
that's-
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they were the same.
Oh,
like, at
okay.
least
But there
around
was
the
like,
same age.
but there was like romantic tension in the original, so it makes sense. That's not really a bad change.
No, I'm glad they went for it. I thought it was kind of fun.
I did love who played the cat pirate. Oh
That was
man,
my least favorite part. That was the most cringe part of the whole show.
no,
I
because
can't
it was
handle people
presented.
hissing. I can't
odd-
do it.
No, not those. Like those guys were casted really well too. But I'm talking about Claudor.
Claudor.
He was just awesome. Like he looked like he was ripped straight out of the anime and manga.
I
And
do
You
agree.
mean Captain
yeah.
Kuro or what?
Yeah, Claudor.
Claudor? What does that mean? Do you know
And
what he's talking about?
It was
Christian?
so great because they did the glasses thing without making it cringy. I can't believe they like some of the stuff in this show. I can't believe they went all the way and it wasn't like
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, I do agree. I did notice that like Claudor did the whole thing with his glasses, and it's just those like attention to details things that I really appreciate a lot that they still kept from the anime.
He was very imposing. Like he was as intimidating, and they did his moves pretty well. That actually ended up lending itself pretty well. His whole like teleportation almost thing. He's that fast. I thought it really helped. They used those skills better in that with the whole like creepy mansion part of it than they did in the actual show.
Yeah, and I like that death is an actual thing in this show because in the original anime, death is a thing, but it's not as prevalent as you would
No one
want
dies
it to be.
in One Piece.
Yeah, so Mary, for instance, gets stuck in the original anime, just like in the live action one. But he comes back at the end of like the arc. He's like, oh, like I think like the girl was
Yeah, he
like
sends
carrying
off
him
the
or
thing.
something like that. And he's like, oh yeah, he just needed some bandages or something like that. So I like that death is an actual thing and it gives a reason for the Going Merry to actually have like the name Going Merry, because I think it just had the name Going Merry.
Yeah, that they named it after kind of him, or he named it. I forget quite how that was.
Yeah, so I like that there's more of a reason for the ship to have the name the Going Merry.
Heck, Zoro in the first episode, like 5 minutes in, cuts one of the Baroque work members like clean.
That was awesome.
Crazy. It balances out because in the same episode you also had to see Helmeppo's pasty white. Like I did not need to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there like I said, just I'm so glad that they stuck so close to the source material because that's why a lot of adaptations aren't working properly nowadays. They don't stick close enough to the source material. They don't go that extra mile. They want to change things. They want to make stuff for a grander audience, and it's like you don't need to do that. You if you stay close to the fans, that's where your audience is, especially for One Piece. There's thousands and thousands of One Piece fans. If they were to change things, fans would have hated this show. And I'm just glad that they didn't explain things. It's like Zoro having his 3 swords. They don't have to make some stupid explanation like, oh, he puts something else in his mouth to hold and balance the sword out. And then he uses, it's just, nope, just he puts it in his mouth, 3 sword style. Nothing else questions it.
I want to talk about Zoro's backstory, but before we do that, I think we'd accidentally glossed over X-Hand Morgan, the whole introduction of Nami and Zoro. We probably should go back before we hit that. What do you guys think of Nami and Zoro's introduction?
Ooh, so I gotta say that the way that X-Hand Morgan looks, first of all, I really liked. It just looked so awesome, yet so intimidating. But that whole arc, I think, I kind of liked because it was the way that I interpreted it. It was kind of some parts were goofy, but I still liked it when there was action, because I'm more of like an action. I like to see action in a bunch of stuff, so I really did like X-Hand Morgan in the way that his whole character, especially in this live action, was portrayed, and how I just love
I
the way
think
he
you're right
looked.
with the fights. The fights in
Yeah.
One Piece are not that great until like later seasons because they're always cut up over 15 episodes and it's a lot of just boo-boo-doo-boo-doo, it's
Yeah.
whatever. This is an actual fight. I do like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, again, like they have so much stuff that they have to compact in such a, I guess, small amount of time compared to what they have in the shows. So to see that how clean these fights are, I just can't get over it. It's like actually like probably my favorite part of this live action is the fights.
Yeah, I agree. And Zoro's change was overall, I think, fine. That's pretty much how it worked in the show. But what do you all think of Nami's introduction instead of meeting up with Luffy? I believe at sea, she meets him at the base. What do you guys think?
I liked it because like Christian was saying, this is more of a streamlined version for those that don't want to take the time to watch 1,000 episodes. So for us, I mean, we've already watched through this arc, so I like that it wasn't just a direct shot for shot remake, because I feel like that would have been a little more boring. Would have been more accurate, yeah, but I just like that Luffy makes his acquaintances with Nami and Zoro more faster than he did in the anime, because what was it, like 15 episodes and then we meet Nami?
She wasn't even in there until like after the Axian Morgan base.
Yeah, so there's just a lot here that's streamlined, and it all makes sense. Like, hey, she needs to steal the map that Luffy would need, and it just flows a lot better in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was just fine. I don't know which one. I think I prefer the anime's introduction of Nami, but I don't think it was bad by any means.
I mean, I do agree with Seth, and you just got to think about it from the perspective of somebody that hasn't watched the show. It's just going to be more simple for them to just, Nami needs to steal the maps, and Luffy needs the map as well, and so it's just more simple to comprehend than it would be just to watch the show and it taking forever.
It makes more sense. It doesn't leave the wandering thing. It's like, why is she joining and all this? Because it was originally to just steal from them. It's a little bit more of a fluid introduction with they have a common goal of the map.
Yeah. So I just like that a lot of the stuff here is streamlined and it makes sense. It's not like, okay, but why would she be doing this? Why would she be following him? Why would they be following her? It just flows a lot better. I don't know. I like how it flows. That first episode was almost pitch perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, I did like just all the simple stuff. They didn't really need to drag out anything, which again is a big problem in the anime. It feels like they drag everything forever. but this nice, concise, like, I wouldn't say it's bite-sized, but like a good WoW watch is, especially for somebody that hasn't watched the show that wants to get into it. I think this series is probably one of the, at least a pretty good way to watch the show.
Yeah, and then if someone is interested in like knowing maybe like a little more details about some characters, or just wants more One Piece, you can go back and watch the original anime. There's 45 episodes there for you that it adapts.
Yep. And so, yeah, going back to it though, what did you guys think of Zoro's backstory? Because there's one thing I noticed in it, but it doesn't have much to do with the backstory itself. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on how well they actually covered that.
Loved it. Loved every single second of it, because they don't do nonsense changes. Zoro is still bested by the girl, yes, but the girl acknowledges he will best her in the future. They did not change it for the now at times.
Yes. No, I agree with that. That was kind of the whole point of it, so it's hard to, but I'm glad they just, like, that's just what that kind of was. And I like how they didn't change, down D stairs, the joke of, kill the strongest.
The whole the stairs thing,
which is goofy. But what do you think, Christian?
I thought it was good. You know, it was something that you can kind of relate to. So it gives Zoro a little more character, and I like just the way that they did it. They kept it still, you know, true to the anime, and you know, I think, you know, the way that he thinks back to the death of his childhood friend, and then who, I mean, that's the whole reason why he wants to be a swordsman, like the best swordsman ever. So that, I think it was in the well, right, where he was trying to get out of the well, and he was thinking back to that. I really like that moment in particular because it just shows that, you know, Zoro has character, and you can tell, it can show you what like Zoro is thinking at that time.
It is placed differently, like because in the show, in the original series, it's like chapter 5 in the manga. It's like at the X-Hand Morgan's base. That's when they originally did the backstory, so they moved it way up. But I feel like it added a little bit more to the Syrup Village arc than it did. It was needed more there than in the beginning.
Yeah. No, I liked everything in here, to be honest. Like, obviously, I could nitpick a few things, but for the most part, if you're looking at this as an objective, like, how do you feel about the entire series and how it adapted it? I loved it. I think it adapted it very well. There's nothing really here that I can complain about.
Yeah, I think so too. And one thing that I think it's a good time to bring it up. The first time I noticed it was during Zoro's backstory, but the soundtrack for the whole show, but especially Zoro's like background music whenever he's on screen, is just beautiful. They did a great job. I wish they used a little bit more of like the shows, like, you know, dun 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 dun, like that whole thing would have been cool. But they like adapted like We Are and stuff, and overall I think they kind of nailed it with the whole feel of everything.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm just not thinking about actually, is that like they did the sound really good in this adaptation. So, I mean, it just goes with the vibe of the whole show, to be honest. It's a little different, or it's different from the anime, but I still like it. And thinking about it now, it just goes with the vibe of the show a lot better.
I can't really think of any soundtrack bits that really hit me, except for, you know, when the Going Merry's going and it just adapts the We Are intro into more of like a orchestral theme. But I mean, I really didn't like ever think about it like, oh, that's a bad track. So I mean, it must have been really good. I just didn't really pay attention to it. I was more about the characters.
If you go back and watch it, I think you'll notice it. If you're listening for it, you'll be like, wow, that really is like it is a really pretty soundtrack. That's just something I noticed that was great. But
all right,
you know what else was great was the Baratier arc.
Dude,
that
was
like
great.
My favorite, I think.
Ooh.
Okay, actor that plays Sanji. Are we all in agreement that he was awesome?
He was good. I liked him.
I loved it.
He didn't have eyebrows.
I like the accent too. I like the accent that he had for Sanji.
Yeah,
they all had like British Australian.
I know they couldn't do like the
weird.
original. Yeah, I know that they couldn't do like the original voices because obviously that'd be really hard. But I guess them having accents, like different accents, honestly, I kind of enjoyed. That might be like something small that you probably wouldn't notice, but I really enjoyed, like, I guess it would be just the cast in general. I really liked all of them and the way that they played the character, including Sanji.
What do you think of Garp's accent, Seth?
Dude was amazing. I loved Garp. Okay, you know what's something that I noticed about Garp? They positioned his mustache so that it did the thing that it does in the anime. You know how in the anime it like bounces up and down all the time? Mm-hmm. They did that in the live action, and I noticed it. It was awesome. Like, there's just so many things on a I don't know. I just love that it paid respect to so many little details. It's like, yeah, they could have had a guy there with a mustache, you know, maybe a small one. No, they went all out and they did his 4-foot long, you know, 2 noodle.
No, that's Zeph you're thinking of. The
Zeph?
one-leg guy. Yeah, we're talking about Garp.
Yeah, Zeph is the chef.
Who's
like
Garp
the-
again, if I remember
Garp.
correctly?
His
Is he?
grandpa.
Oh, he's Luffy's
the
grandpa, right?
Grandpa.
Did
Oh,
you know that before you started watching that?
yeah, I did.
No, not Christian.
Oh, I knew just because of my brother.
Oh, okay, because I didn't think you'd be there yet with Kobe and all that.
No, no. I'm nowhere near anything to do with Garp and the new like the Kobe thing.
Garp and Zeph both have kind of the same accent, so I'm in the same boat. I liked that he was just kind of like a gruff Mr. Krabs.
You want to know what Zeph reminded me of?
What?
Gordon Ramsay, just like a little bit.
They could have
Come
had
on,
Gordon Ramsay with a mustache.
Dude, that
That-
would have been
that-
amazing.
That's kind of like the vibe that I got from the show, and
It works so well.
I know it works really good.
He was one of the best actors, I think, in this whole thing. Whoever played Zeph knocked it out of the park.
It was like funny, like kind of the insults that he made at Sanji's food and stuff like that. Oh my, it was really hilarious.
Kept calling him an eggplant.
Yeah.
That's
I
so
liked
funny.
I liked that it was a lot more funny too, because in the original, like it wasn't as funny in the anime, in my opinion. Now, I don't think I've gotten to that part in the manga, but I just remember in the anime he would always like hit Sanji or like anyone that's in the kitchen, if I remember correctly. So it really wasn't that funny, but in this one, I'm with Christian. It was pretty darn funny. Anytime he like was insulting his food or whatever, it wasn't mean spirited. It was more of like a jokey. I don't know.
I would say like it's more like a strong love kind of thing.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
just it was
So
just
then
really
it-
funny.
Yeah, so then, like, I don't think the departure was done as well, in my opinion, compared to the anime, but it makes a lot more sense than it did in the anime.
You're
if
talking
I'm-
about with Garp throwing the cannonball at him from
No,
leaving Syrup
with
Village?
Sanji and Zeph, you dork.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. I love the fact. Okay, I was a little disappointed we couldn't see, bad boy of the East Blue Don Krieg. I was a little bit.
Yeah.
That made me
see
Yeah.
so mad.
But they filled that in the best way possible with Mihawk just absolutely.
Ooh.
We need Don Creed.
Okay, I just want to say something real quick. Mihawk looks incredible in this show. Oh my goodness. Like, that's probably the best, I guess. Looks like it was ripped straight from the anime. Oh my goodness. I cannot get over how good Mihawk looked in this show.
I love that he still had a ridiculous sword. Like, they didn't even, like I said, greatest thing about this adaptation is they don't explain or acknowledge anything. Guy just has a 4-foot long caliber Final Fantasy sword. Same thing with his cross, like, little dagger sword. He's just able to parry with that. Like, they don't question it or explain it. They just do it.
He was so cool in his introduction. I don't even care anymore. Him fighting Don Krieg, him slamming down his sword and like
No,
exploding
I
the
want
ship
Don
from
Krieg.
in
Look.
the water. That was sick. That was
I
the
like-
best fight in the whole show.
I
It wasn't
like-
even the main character.
I like Don Creek too, but man, Mihawk is just something else.
Mihawk's got that dog in him.
That's what
It-
yeah.
It was cool, especially when he like slices the cannonball that Don Creed throws at him. But I
Uh-huh.
still, Don Creed was one of my favorite villains in the original anime, and to just see him like for 2 seconds, and they casted like the most perfect looking actor for him too, and they had him in his big buff gold suit and his weird cannonballs that are coming out from under him. So I'm just disappointed we didn't get to see more of him because it was such a perfect actor that they casted for him.
It was more realistic, I'll give it that. He definitely would have died before he even left the Grand Line if it was actually legit instead of plot armor. He would never have made it to the Baratier if Mihawk was after him, but
That's the only thing I can kind of question. Why so Don Creed is not in the Baratier arc. Why did they still have the hungry sailor come in and Sanji cook for him? I understand, like, as in terms of it shows like Sanji has a good side to him, but
that's it. Character development.
Yeah, just more character development.
I don't know. I just feel like it was kind of unnecessary.
I guess it wasn't necessary, but I'm not mad that it was in there. It wasn't that long or anything.
Yeah, I just don't really get it. It's like, if you're gonna cut Don Creed out, why not cut his crew member as well? I understand that wasn't his crew member in the live action, but I mean, like,
Yeah,
it just
Yeah,
didn't
I
make a
get
whole
what
lot
you
of
mean.
sense.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
was.
that-
He showed up, and then Don Creek showed up later.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I don't know. It was fine. I don't know. I'm glad they put it in. But yeah, Mihawk kind of stole the whole show there.
He stole that whole episode, in my opinion.
Yeah. I just loved when, like, Usopp was drunk and he's like talking to him, Mihawk, and he's like, I'm the captain around my parts, and he's like, I would very much like to talk to your real captain. He's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of the captain around here, but I'm not really a captain. He's like, come here and meet my buddies. And then he goes over to Zoro and Robin. He's like, meet my best friend I just met.
And then Zoro immediately challenges to a duel to the
Yeah, and it
death,
just
like-
it turned
Yeah.
into like the most serious conversation. He's like, I will challenge you and I will beat you.
Yeah, which is really funny to watch back because like it was so much of a stomp out. I'm glad they portrayed it as such because that's what it was. I loved seeing his little blade. That held up so well. That was so funny.
And they did the shot too, where it's his two swords that do the cross, and he just like stops it right
With
in
the
the center.
point, with
Yeah.
his little knife. And he's like, why would I
Gosh.
why would I use a bazooka to kill a rabbit? And I'm like, dog, man, that is so sick. Like,
It's good.
What a lie.
Yeah, that. Ugh. I just can't get over the fight scene. I'm a big action guy, so watching like the choreography of the fights and stuff, that was my thing.
It was good. It was well handled. It wasn't overly complicated, nor was it boring.
Yeah, and one big change that they made. What are your guys' thoughts on the fishmen coming to the Baratier instead of Luffy and the gang going to Arlong Park and meeting them there?
Yeah, I think kind of going back earlier, it was pretty smooth. Just like that whole, like them going there, it made it a lot smoother. I'm not like the biggest critique when it comes to like changing stuff, and just to make things like a little more compact. But I did like how it was handled, and I thought it was actually pretty good, honestly.
Yeah. I'm in agreement because I don't like in the original anime how many times Nami steals from the crew. Like, she steals the Going Merry and goes off to, her hometown. That's
Mhm.
just... And Luffy just kind of brushes it off the side. And it's kind of like, well, what if she does that to you again in the future? Like, she did it once, why not again? And in this, I like that it's like her thinking that she's going to do it, and then instead she decides to go aboard a boat, and then she decides not to support Zoro with his fight
Mm-hmm.
and be there with the crew. And I really liked that scene because that's a lot of character development. But with the fishmen coming to the Baratier, it made sense to me because in the original anime, Luffy fights this guy for like 17 episodes in a row until he finally finds his weakness. So I like that in this, it's like round one, we have it where Luffy, he what is that word? He undersells.
Underestimates
them.
Yeah, he underestimates the fishman at first. He's like, I'm gonna beat your butt, and then he cracks his knuckles, and then Arlong kicks his butt. I like that because now he can assess, like, okay, how do I beat him for round two? And he does it with the second one when he goes to Nami's hometown. So it made sense story-wise.
I'd much rather see him fight there than watch him like go in the pool in front of Arlong Park and be under the water for like 20 minutes. Like, that wasn't as interesting.
Oh yeah, and that's just the whole thing again. Like they compact everything to where I remember I watched that, like the Arlong arc, and it was just underwater for like, I think it was like 2 episodes. I was thinking, just like, oh my goodness, can you just please just get this over with?
Yeah, and then you like find like
And so-
you have like an episode with Zoro tackling his fishmen, and then an episode of Sanji tackling another fishman. It's like,
And
Get to the
Yeah, and
point.
it's just like,
but yeah,
I just love the way that they compacted everything, and where there was a lot of things happening, yes, but for me, it was more interesting to watch than Luffy underwater for like 2 episodes.
Yeah, there's always something that's going on in this show. The live action one, it's constantly moving. The original cartoon is more so not something to binge watch, in my opinion. It's more so what it was designed for, like a weekly episode where it's like, hey, tune in to see what's going to happen next, because Luffy falls in the pool. He's stuck in the pool for one episode. Then he gets out of the pool in the next episode. So it's like you're supposed to watch them week by week. And in the live actions case, it's just handled a lot more streamlined.
yeah, it's an improvement. It doesn't feel like it's been, for instance, going one episode a week every single week for the past 20 years.
Yeah,
like, that's
for
not.
sure.
So, what did you guys think? Because I don't think this was in the anime at all. Between Zeph and Garp when he showed up after the fishmen kind of cleared out.
Ooh.
I don't think it was in the anime.
I don't think it was either.
I don't think.
That's what I was trying to assess, and I just chalked it up to me misremembering. Maybe they had it in Water 7 when they were talking about Kobe's backstory?
I could be mistaken. It's been a minute, but
Maybe. But I don't really remember it. But I liked a lot of that banter. He's like, I'm going to arrest you. And then he's like, it's a shame to waste all those steaks. And he's like, medium rare. And he's like,
He's kind of bribing him with food. That would work on me,
Garp
to be honest.
was good. He was so serious in the beginning, I was kind of worried. But then watching him leave, like, Syrup Village, and he's getting all excited because Luffy shot the cannonball back at him. Like, I'm like, okay, he's kind of goofy. He's kind of fun.
Yeah, he's like, you got some fight in you now, son.
That was great.
Man, I just love his whole character, Garp, and especially because I'm not there yet in the anime, so I see this as kind of like a little sneak peek to see what he's
Yeah,
gonna
and
be
it's
like.
different enough in the anime where you can watch it and not be like, well, I already know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that just kind of goes along with like the whole bunching stuff up together, and I got to get to that point in the anime, I guess.
I'm shocked at how well implemented it was, like figuring out like, oh, how did the fishermen know Nami was there? He literally was working with Buggy, which works so well. Like if you watch the show later on, just kind of the general thing they go for. That was not in the show. Leaving his ear in his straw hat, like that's so ridiculous. But it works out well. Like I'm just shocked at how well all the pieces fit in order to make the stuff that they needed to condense happen. That's how they made it so natural. I just thought that was good to bring up because those are big changes in a story that's as vast. Any little thing can turn into something big later. So the fact they were able to go through that minefield so well is super, super interesting to me.
Yeah, well, they had like the original creator and stuff work with this in tandem. So I'm sure like he was picking apart some things where like he's like, hey, you could do this and, it'd make more sense later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just having all those like little things that to make this series more condensed, it doesn't leave like any plot holes. Like why everything happened.
Yeah, there's less going on.
Why they got and you can just tell that there was a lot of attention to detail when it came to this show, and that's something that I can really appreciate a lot.
Yeah.
Before we move on to what is the grand finale, real quick, I wanted to bring up one of the strangest things I've ever seen, and that being the transponder snails. They were so funny.
My dad was like, what is that? Why does he have a snail on his desk? And then he like, wait, it's the telephone? Like, he's like, what?
Yeah, my parents are kind of in the same mindset. It was a weird trying to tell them that a snail was a telephone.
But I mean, that's like the mindset you have when you're watching the anime for the first time. You're like, wait, what? Snails are like their telephones? You're like, this is insane.
Yeah, it's just kind of something that like it's just funny to talk. At least since my parents, obviously, this is the first time they watch anything One Piece related. So to have that conversation that snails
they
are
dress up like the
telephones
people
in
that
this world,
they belong to is so funny.
Yeah, and they see the like their little outfits too, where it's just like it's so funny. Just
Yeah, like Garp's snail has like
to
a
see
big beard
be-
on him.
It must yeah.
yeah, it's just funny to see these adapted into like.
And I like
live
that they
action.
weren't
I just
CGI.
enjoy
They
it.
were just like little animatronics.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that was funny was Arlong and the gang pulling up to the Baratie. It just shows like it starts playing some hip hop music and there's
Yeah, like rap music.
swimming on up.
That was also something that I found really funny because it was just like it was just like a pool. It just sounds like a normal pool party with just like a bunch of rap music and stuff going on. And I was like, that's just
that cracked
I
me
could
up,
see
and
that
it wasn't
happening.
even meant to. It was just so good.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's a change where they just like straight up make him a gangster.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Have you any other funny moments before we move on that you can think of that just kind of caught you off guard even?
Okay, I got one. And then we'll let Christian go. Okay, I got one. Shank's crew was amazing. That whole fight scene when
Dang.
the pirates pull up and Shank is like pointing the gun symbol and he shoots it off. And then it shows his two other, like his sharpshooter, Usopp. And then
Yes.
I always forget the fat guy's name.
Lucky Roo.
Yeah, he starts beating the crap out of people with a piece of meat. That was just awesome.
I was gonna say that too because it just shows like I guess character, and it was just kind of goofy seeing somebody get plummeted with a big old meat object.
That was a good compromise, but I still wish they implemented the part where he pulls out a gun and he holds it up to Shanks, and then he goes, guns aren't for threats, they're for actions, and then Lucky Roo like whips behind him and just blasts him. Like that was a crazy moment from the show, and I wish they had it in there. But I will take him just beating a guy to death with a with a chicken drumstick.
Yeah, no, I liked Shank's crew a lot more.
Yeah, I mean it was fun to see them, like getting some action in this show. So that's something that I can always appreciate. More action for me equals more fun in the show. So I mean, that's something that I will continue to appreciate.
I think we passed over Sanji a little too much. I loved that he still did his flying kicks and that they had like little like air waves whenever they would hit one of the fishmen in the Baratie. Like that was just awesome.
That was cool. It was.
Yeah, again, it's just like that choreography when it comes to like all the
Oh,
fighting
that was
stuff.
the whole thing was
It
great.
was done-
The choreography, like
Yeah, it was amazing, and seeing them perform moves that they would in the anime like pretty accurately.
Yeah, like Sanji will just like fly in out of like shot just randomly and help Zoro out like later on. Like just a lot of stuff that is like just straight ripped from the cartoon.
yeah, and I think I don't know if we covered it. We can go back to his backstory a bit. I don't know if we covered it enough, honestly, in their whole relationship. That was a super compelling backstory. It always has been. But just, I could totally remember seeing it for the first time and realizing that Zeph doesn't even have any food. It was just worthless treasure to him at that point. That one hit super hard, and I think they did a great job adapting that part.
It was a lot better. I always loved the manga version of this a lot better than the anime, because in the anime, you can make an argument like, okay, yeah, sure, it's a cartoon, whatever, he survived. But in the cartoon, like, he gets his leg wrapped around a chain, and then he breaks it, right, if I'm correctly?
I don't know. I didn't read the initial part.
Well, in the anime, he loses his leg a different way. So in the live action one, I like that he ate his leg. Like he just ate it. And then Sanji's like looking at him weird, and it's just like kind of a humor. She's like, "You ate it."
Was that how did he? I thought he ate it in the manga, but he didn't in the anime. I thought he just cut it off. Well, how was it, Christian? Do you remember?
I really don't remember. I'll have
he
to look
got it
back.
stuck somewhere, like trying to save Sanji in the anime, and then he wrapped something around it to chop it off. It was something like that because he did not eat it in the anime. I remember that very clearly.
But he did here, that's for sure.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that
You
was,
ate it.
It was, yeah. I like that. That was always a really hard hitting one. I just love that they didn't mess with anything they shouldn't have. They did a great job. Just Kid Sanji was just fine. Like, I didn't expect him to go all Christian Bale and lose 50 pounds for the role or something to look like a malnourished child or anything. But they did good. Like, I believe they were hungry. They were hankering something. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, keeping all the important parts of the show is, especially in this, like, you get all the character development without all the filler like you would in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
And them keeping all the important parts, like Sanji's backstory, Zoro's backstory, everybody's backstory, them being able to implement that into the show and still have other things going on is, I think, probably my favorite part of the show, because they keep everything that you need to know about these characters, but yet you can, I guess, see them like flash back to it every now and then to add that character development that made me fall in love with the characters in the anime.
And they're not like, they're still just as surprising. Like the stuff with Zeph and his backstory of how he gave all the food to Sanji. Like that still surprises you like it did in the anime. You don't see it coming. Same thing with Zoro and his friend dying. You don't see it coming. Nami, you don't see her story coming from a million miles. If you never have watched the anime, you don't see any of these things coming. It's not evident.
I do like they still left the hints in, like hinting at things. Like I could tell whenever they poked at a reference. Like they name dropped so many things, like Noland and Jinbei and all that. Like they did that stuff, but even just like she kept telling them, like, I'm a burglar, I'm all this. Just
I
like
hate
the
pirates.
show. Yeah, I hate pirates, but all of a sudden she's part of the pirates. They don't like bring that up, but it's there for you to catch on if you remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just love all the character development that they have in this series. They what they did with like the little amount of time that they had to like actually show the development, I really enjoyed it, and I know from what I've heard, at least from my parents and from my other people that I've talked to, that they really enjoyed the way, like, how concise this show feels without being, I guess the best way to put it is like everything happening at once. There's still things going on, but there's always something that's at least highlighted in each episode.
And I think that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, that being Arlong Park. What did you guys... I think I liked Baratie a little more, but Arlong Park was really good, and I was really worried about how they'd present Arlong, but I'm actually pretty pleased with how that turned out.
I love this voice. Arlong's voice was awesome in this. Just like a low growl. I just loved it.
It was so deep.
Oh yeah, I know. It was... I think that made him a little bit more intimidating, honestly. Like that deeper voice. And he always kind of talk like this. You know what I mean? Just like... You can hear like that raspiness in his voice sometimes.
Yeah.
I liked it, honestly. I really liked the actor that played Arlong.
Nami really stood out in this section. Of course, it's her arc, but I feel the way they revealed the events, her backstory on par was like super good as well. It was a great one in the show. It was a great one here. What'd you guys think?
I think that she can really act, because the thing about this part of the anime is this is one of like the pivotal moments. This isn't something that they could have taken very lightly. This is very, very pivotal. The part when, you know, she starts stabbing her arm and she's like screaming out Arlong, you know, and Luffy comes and stops her. That is such a pivotal moment in the anime, and that's the thing that scared me the most. I'm like, all right, how are they gonna adapt that part? And they just did it. They just did it. And the actress for Nami, I mean, she did amazing for it.
Yeah, her help me was
Yeah.
very compelling. Like that was very good.
Yeah.
And for me, seeing it like live action, I think made it hit a little harder
Yeah.
than it did in the anime. Oh my goodness! And especially because Arlong was paying the captain, that one Marine captain, to steal the money, and seeing the actual devastation in somebody's eyes. Just seeing everything that you've worked for your entire life to be taken away from you. Like, I really appreciate the actor for Nami. That it really hit different, especially seeing it.
I
live
forget
action.
how did it happen in the original show? It wasn't like I don't think he paid the Marine. How did she either lose the money or need Luffy's help eventually? I forget.
I think Arlong found it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Arlong just took it.
I could be very wrong on that. I think maybe the Marine, maybe it's adapted straightforward, but
I don't. I do. Okay, I think you're. I don't know if you're right, but
I
I
do
still
remember the
mouse
Marines-
guy.
yeah, the mouse guy let him do whatever they wanted. I remember that. And like they had to pay alimony for the mouse, Marine.
Alimony. It's a bribe, but yeah.
Nezumi, was that the name of the
I don't
Marine?
know. I just
That's the
remember
name of
rat.
her sister, or is it?
I don't remember either.
remember.
We're so many episodes deep. Some of this stuff is, yeah.
Yeah.
I just got past Alabasta, so that was a handful, all right. Especially because I watched it straight through. No, I didn't take out any of the filler. I just watched it everything.
Just
every
wait till you get the
single episode.
Skypea. That's gonna be fun for you.
Skypea drags.
I heard
It's
that
rough.
one was bad. I heard that one was bad.
But
I like that
I-
they had, the main towns guy. You know how he has like a little windmill on his hat.
mm-hmm.
He still had a windmill in this one.
That was nice. The whole town. They didn't have to go to like beat Arlong like in the show. It wasn't the whole thing, but I feel like they presented it in a way that it was like they were still willing to band together, but they were still very hateful of Nami. Like it still felt like a community, and it also was presented that way in
Mhm.
her flashback. I felt like that that worked out in their favor really well. I think it was all handled really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really did enjoy like the Cocoa Village, that whole like area, and especially when they were starting to like get together just to fight Arlong. I think it was a story bit, and I just really liked it. Just the whole Cocoa Village, like part of the Arlong arc.
I liked that the village was a more villagey, like the houses looked like native houses. Because in the
Yeah.
original anime, if I'm remembering correctly, they were just kind of like the generic buildings you would see in any other town. And while it was a smaller town, it didn't feel like, just a place in the middle of nowhere. Like this felt like a village. When Nami's like, I grew up in a village where, there was hardly anything to do. Like you feel that when you see the town.
I don't remember how they showed it in the show. I don't remember if it was just Nami in particular that was poor and the village was just okay until Arlong came along. But I don't know if they ever presented the village.
They
as,
have
like,
a
super
pretty
poor
decent
before
house
then.
in the anime. Like in this, it's literally like a one
It's a
sized shack. And in the anime, it's like, I think it's, it's a lot more of a grander house, if I'm remembering correctly.
Well, it's better than a shack. It's still not like huge.
Yeah. I like the background of Nami too. The little girl actress that plays Nami, I thought she did really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciated the child actors for both Nami and the Nami sister. I really like the child actors. I think in that backstory for Nami did really good. And again, seeing that live action, Nami's backstory, it just hit different. I think it hit different.
Yeah, it's hard to not think back. Like, it's hard to put myself in the eyes of somebody that hasn't seen it before. Is my thing. I have a hard time determining whether or not people would feel the same way I do if they didn't know what was going to happen or what it was like before. I think it's hard for me to say, really.
Yeah. I know for me, I love the way it was presented still, because this was straight ripped out of the anime. Like when, I forget their mother's name all the time. Bella Vista.
Belmir?
Yeah, Bellamere. When she cocks her gun and readies herself in that position at the doorway, and then Arlong just shoots himself in the doorway and then grabs her gun and hoists it up and she shoots, like that's all ripped straight from the anime. I just I loved how many scenes felt like they were just ripped right out of the anime, but at the same time they had their own little spin on it where it wasn't just a shot for shot remake.
They got close with that. Was probably the closest followed one. Like her stealing the book, all that was in there legit. There was just a couple little things they missed, but everything, like literally nothing though. Like they still showed her finding them at the battlefield and all that. That was by far the closest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I just seeing, like, it was like basically just ripped from the anime, like you said, and I think that one probably is, like, I think the one that they definitely needed to keep everything similar when it comes to like changing like their backstories. I think Nami's was probably the most important one, so I'm glad that they didn't really like change anything big or like, you know, change a lot of things, but I'm glad that they kept that one as original as they did.
And all of that leads up to Luffy fighting Arlong. The other fights were not all that important to me. They were cool, but Arlong versus Luffy was pretty cool, if I have to say so myself.
It was awesome.
I told you, like, I'm a big action guy, so I mean,
I love, you know, Zoro and Sanji's little banter too, because that's another thing I was worried about. Zoro and Sanji in the original anime have like the best chemistry because they hate each other to their guts, and they're always like trying to one up one another. So like when Sanji's off on his like romantic tangents, Zoro's right behind him making fun of him. Or whenever Zoro's doing something like he can't, I don't really have a good example, but like Sanji's always making fun of Zoro and retaliation. So I liked that when they were fighting the entire time, Zoro's like, I got one. Sanji's like, oh no, I got that one. He's like, oh, I helped you, Moss Head. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I like that I like that Zoro kept calling him waiter. It keeps up with, because I don't think he ever calls Sanji by his name in the show. I can't recall him ever. He always calls him like Twirly Brow or just like he'll call him. There's so many funny names that he ends up calling him, but he just kept calling him a waiter, even though just because he knew it would make him mad. I love that.
Yeah, and I think before we do get into the Luffy versus Arlong, I do want to quickly mention Usopp's fight with that one other fisherman.
Yeah.
And I just want to say the whole fried fish thing was pretty funny. And the whole like he tried to like hide himself with ketchup and stuff.
Yeah, that was so
It was straight out of Usopp.
That was him. 100%.
Yeah. That was just Usopp 100%. And I love that.
I love
part.
No, I agree. And I love how weird they made the fishmen look. Like my guy who was fighting Usopp, it was so funny.
They had the guy with the big lips in the original anime.
They did, and they look so weird, but I'm here for it. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't look too crazy, though.
It looks weird enough where you're like, man, what's that guy? And then, it's not stupid in a live action environment. It's not, the guy with the big lips has like the long alligator lips mouth. It's not that. It's just a guy with big lips in this one.
The only thing I wish they put was Hachan. Like, you'll see him later in the show. You'll see him in a minute here, Zeth. He's a big part of the later series, but I didn't see him. He's like the octopus dude.
Oh, I was wondering about the octopus guy, because Zoro fights him in the anime.
Yeah, I just didn't see him at all. But, like, he's kind of important And you'll see him here in a bit, Zeth. Like,
All right. Well,
I don't know why they didn't put him in.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be something like a flashback will happen, and then they'll show him in the. I don't know. Maybe he got away or something like that, and you just didn't see it. Arlong versus Luffy. Incredible.
Mm-hmm. He was pretty cool, if I have to say so. I like the way that they fought. I felt it was pretty creative, and it worked super well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I like this. Like, I really appreciated like this the setting of like that map room that they were in, with all the maps and stuff. And I really appreciated the scenery. I think it looked amazing, and it made the fight.
It was
I think,
pretty
a lot
true
better.
to the original material.
I like that it looked like a dungeon, because in the original anime, like, it's just like a room, like just a normal looking room. And it's like, Arlong's kind of treating her okay. But then in this one, it's like a giant pit, and like she's chained up all the time. You know, there's like the map on the walls that she's like making, and like all the maps have like blood from like her fingertips being worked to the bone. So I like that there's a lot more of like Nami got treated bad by Arlong. It's not like, yeah, she was a member of the crew, so Arlong was like, yeah, whatever, you get this room.
He unchained me when I was 12 as a birthday present. It was kind of funny. So, but yeah, I liked the fight. Luffy, getting him to break all the barriers, sometimes even causing himself to like punch it on accident. Like, I loved watching all that, trying to get the place to collapse. That holds up really well. And then, of course, the finishing move was great. That was probably the best attack in the whole show.
Gotta say, the I don't know what it's called, but the graphics for when the building was falling, that looked like a miniature. Like, that looked amazing.
Yeah, it really did look like a pile of rubble all said and done. It worked out great. And his gum battle axe, he throws that bad boy up. It comes right down on Arlong, and the whole thing collapsed. Like, I couldn't ask for a better showing. I was the part I was most worried about ended up being more enjoyable than the show, because the fights lend themselves so much better to that environment.
I just can't get over the fights in this. Just in this show in general, or this live action.
It was so
remake.
good.
I know, and it just like, it shows the anime, like, like every single one of Luffy's attacks, like it looks like it's just ripped straight from the anime,
and in the best way possible. My only concern now that it's done is I want a season 2, but I am a little bit concerned.
It gets a little
going
more
forward.
weird.
I want to see puppet hybrid CGI Chopper.
See, that's the thing I was wondering about. Season 1 for One Piece, I was thinking before this came out, okay, if done right, this will be really good and actually easier to adapt than later seasons. Because Season 1, the craziest thing is Luffy in a live-action environment. Season 2, we're talking about a reindeer that speaks like a human and is their doctor, and you have to make it look super cute like Pikachu, but at the same time you have to make it like a Bigfoot heffalump muscle man.
Yeah, I know, and that's one of the things that I'm sure that they'll get right with Chopper. I do, especially after seeing this show. I do have a lot of trust in whatever they're gonna plan on doing, whether it's like CGI like Detective Pikachu, or if it's just like something else. I do believe that they'll hopefully make him look good.
Besides Chopper, Alabasta will be fine.
Nico Robin's fine.
Nico Robin will be great. And then you get to the later series.
Frankie. What are you going to do with Frankie, man?
Frankie only gets weirder. Post time skip, I don't think it's sustainable.
I think
just nuclear explosions going off when people punch and stuff like that. Like, Frankie after time skip is just so weird. It's gonna be crazy.
The thing that they have to do with this, the filming when they start filming again, because I don't know what the whole writers and actors strike going on.
Yeah.
They need to film the next 3 seasons back to back to back, because this is a hit. This is like the biggest show that has ever come out, right? It beat Wednesday and Stranger Things for like the top most watched show in the world. So it's massive. Why not go that extra mile and film the next 2 seasons or even 3 seasons just back to back to back to back?
The answer is they've been working on it for years, and it just looks like it was so expensive to make. Those real boats are
Yeah,
not
I
cheap.
bet.
I bet.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. Why not go for have Netflix go for a movie budget, but then implement that in the next 3 seasons? Like, this had a big budget, yes, but give it like, just give them the time they need, but say you have to film the next 3 seasons back to back to back. So then season 2 can come out, then season 3 can come out the next year, and then season 4. And then you're not waiting a whole ton of time in between those seasons. And that way also the actors, you're not going to have these actors for the next 10 years. You're not going to be able to do a seasons 5, 6, and 7 probably, if that's how far we're going to be getting here. You're not going to be able to do that. Luffy's going to look like, a grown man. He's not going to look like Luffy for the rest of eternity for the next 10 years. So you just need to make sure these next few seasons, they're either filmed super fast or filmed back to back to back.
Live action Big Mom's gonna go so hard. I hope they get to like Whole Cake or something. Like, that's gonna go crazy.
Bro just undermined my entire argument.
Yeah. I mean, I do get what you're trying to say. As much as I would love for that to happen, realistically, I don't see it.
Yeah, there's just so many arcs. Fishman would be super hard to do. There's just a few. Even Thriller Bark to an extent. Maybe it'd be okay, but
I think you could get to like before the time skip happens. If they started filming, like I don't know what the whole writers thing, if they had a season 2 written,
Yeah.
but the minute they're allowed to, they need to start writing like the next just 5 seasons. Get to like Frankie or Thriller Bark, like get to some of the weirder seasons. I don't know.
The whole problem is like half the crew's gonna be CGI at that point. Chopperwood, Brookwood.
Bosco, you don't have to.
Who's Bosco?
Not Bosco. The skeleton man.
Brooke.
Brooke,
I
yeah,
cannot
Brooke.
believe You called him.
Listen, I have it. I'm
Bosco.
not
letting
at
that go.
I'm not at the point where they've actually got him on his crew. You can do him in a costume, just have his face be like, one guy operating it like a puppet, like just make his mouth go up and down. That's all you got to do.
He's see-through. I
You
don't
don't
know.
have to make him see-through. Chopper is going to be the hardest. Like Frankie, CGI body, whatever, and robotics, metal. We've made it look really good. And then Frankie, when he first shows up, he's just a big buff dude. That's pretty easy to do. And since they're willing to go the ridiculous route, Popeye arms, that's very easy. Chopper is
Yeah.
the hardest character.
But
Quite
think
literally.
of the merchandise. That's what everyone calls them in the show. Is they call them the merchandise because they'll just sell so many plushies.
Yeah, I mean, if they can do it, like, they just have to make him look like a cute Pikachu, and then,
Yeah.
I don't know, just make him look like a big Bigfoot or something like that whenever he's super buff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Chopper will probably look like kind of like the Detective Pikachu, kinda ish, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everything they can do is just making it look right. I guess is my
Yeah.
biggest concern, because I don't want it to be like the first rendition of the Sonic movie.
I really want
that
first
ugly-
edition Sonic Chopper.
ugly-
That'd be great.
I don't want Chopper to look something like that, but I'm sure that they'll do fine. They'll figure out something. And as for the other characters, I mean, I don't know how. Like, I don't know all the work that goes into CGI, but I don't see it being that hard. I believe, but I could be 100% wrong.
They
on
could
that,
get, like,
but-
someone like the Jim Henson Company or something like that to do Chopper. I mean, look at Five Nights at Freddy's. They're implementing, like, animatronics and costumes, as well as some CGI scenes. So, I mean, I think you can do it. You just have to do it right.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, that's what it really just comes down to when it comes to these characters. Is just being able to do them right, not making them look weird. And I think other than that, I mean, I'm sure that they'll do good. I don't doubt that they can't, rather that they can, but I think that they'll do good when it comes to these characters, and I'm kind of excited to see it, honestly.
Yeah.
It is Netflix. It's like they will just cancel like a universally loved show just so they can release season 14 of Is It Cake? But like, I just don't know. I think they could do the next season, but anything after that,
they're
just have
gonna
to cut
do
their
it.
losses. But
I
at least we got
think-
this.
Yeah,
I think if they didn't do it, that would be like the most foolish decision because nobody watched Cowboy Bebop. Everyone watched like the first 10 minutes or first episode and they were like, nah, not for me. And it wasn't that much watched. This is the most watched show in the world right now, and everybody's eating it up, both critics and fans. So, season 2, I think, is a guarantee.
It is hard to it's easy to mess it up, but like One Piece is the second most sold comic book besides Superman. Like,
It's actually the most
it's-
sold piece of fiction right now. It just beat out Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern right now is just like Netflix has a big tendency for the first season of something to be really good, and then later down the line, the quality kind of drops. You know what I mean? That's my biggest concern.
You are dead right, because this one requires an increase, if anything.
Yeah, I love most of the time when Netflix releases like a series, the first season is like best ever. Like the thing that comes to mind is Stranger Things. The first season of Stranger Things was
And then
amazing.
as it went along, they just
And
dragged it.
after that, it kind of dropped. I heard that the later seasons were pretty good, but I haven't watched it since. But my biggest concern with this One Piece live action series is that this first season was great, but I'm just hoping that they keep that. I guess what I'm trying to say. I hope that they keep that like that drive to make these episodes so amazing onto the later
Yeah.
seasons, and I just hoping that the quality as these episodes go on, that the quality doesn't drop, because I'm sure that this series will probably one of the biggest things that Netflix
It's
has
their biggest show.
on their it's going to be like their biggest thing that they have on their website. So I'm just hoping that the quality doesn't drop as we get
I
more
don't think the
episodes.
quality will drop as in terms of their CGI or their them necessarily like the budget. I don't think that quality will drop because Stranger Things budget increased. Like they went from a nothing show to, one of the most expensive shows ever made. But I am with you, but I think we'll just have to be concerned mostly about the writing.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's something that we kind of
Yeah.
discussed. Like with the attention to detail, everything had a purpose. We go back to like Claudador with his glasses, and just all these attention to details that I'm hoping that they keep that same kind of effort.
The biggest thing, Oda,
in this
the
second
maker
season.
of it, he said he kind of had to fight tooth and nail sometimes to get things the way he wanted. So if he isn't as involved in the next few seasons, I could see it kind of going.
I think
rough.
that's maybe something that they need to get his blessing on too. Like they need to get a blessing of season 2 or his permission or the rights to do season 2. So he'll probably say, yeah, unless I get my way on things like with the first season, you're not getting season 2. He might just
Yeah,
straight
it's
up
his
say,
baby, like straight
yeah,
up.
he might just say, no season 2 unless I get what I want.
So. And I'm hoping for it. I don't care how long it takes to come out.
Bring on season 2!
Woo!